Okay. Yeah.
Good. So you gave an introduction to your spiritual process and the things that have gone on since you were a child, really. And
Yeah.
yeah, more recently, there was some clarity when you watched the recording of the conversation with Nina.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Just as I was watching it, just for, fraction of a second, there was this kind of separation.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, you know, he's talking to me and not Bridie. Just it was
Yes.
very fractional, but it was that sort of glimpse that sort of encouraged me to contact you in the end,
Mm.
because I felt like I couldn't leave it there.
Good. Good. Well, yeah, that's it's quite common really, the way we have an insight like that and then the mind wants to come back in. But
Mm,
let's see where you are at the moment and then we'll take it from there.
okay.
So you've watched a few of the conversations on my channel, I guess, and
Yeah.
so so do you feel clear on the distinction between impersonal being and the personal mode, would you say?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I mean, the impersonal mode is, what's there first, and
Yes,
then the and the personal is what you put on top, so to speak.
yes. It's great the way you describe that. That's really good.
That's one of the things I really like about your videos. There's so much laughter in them.
Good. So so with impersonal being, are you able just to notice the forms arising equally and effortlessly? So in this moment, could you describe, well, could you use impersonal language as well, just to describe the forms?
I'll try and remember it all, yes. So there is impersonal, effortless awareness of the light shade.
Mm.
There is impersonal, effortless awareness of the curtains. There is impersonal, effortless awareness of tissue. There is impersonal, effortless awareness of the blinds.
Hmm.
There is impersonal, effortless awareness of the mobile phone. There is impersonal, effortless awareness of the clock. There is impersonal, effortless awareness of the picture on the wall.
Hmm.
Impersonal, effortless awareness of the pillows.
Hmm.
There is, do I continue?
That's probably enough. Um, are there any thoughts or emotions arising, do you say?
There's impersonal, effortless awareness of um, frequency that you'd call nervousness.
Okay.
Uh,
I like the way you describe that. That's it's good though because you can see that it is only like a little frequency really, because it's the personalization which creates the intensity in a way. Whereas if we're just watching it as a little frequency, then it's we can disregard it to some degree.
yes, yeah, I've been using impersonal language quite a bit
Good,
when, yeah, I
good.
mean, approaching this talk or our conversation,
Yes.
there's lots of thoughts. There were lots of thoughts which I tried to meet with impersonal language to keep them at a distance.
That's really good. So if we take an example of forms arising in this moment, something fairly constant. So actually, we could take the frequency of nervousness because it's quite good
Mm-hmm.
to look at it objectively. And so, could you just um, could you just engage the mind to describe it?
Hmm. This feeling of nervousness, I can, I feel tense. Stomach is a bit uneven. I feel a little bit shaky just in the body.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there's no need for any of that.
I know. I told myself that because you're definitely somebody who doesn't sit in judgment. So,
Well, especially as you're so clear, because I like the way you were using impersonal language to describe the forms arising equally and effortlessly. And that's utilizing or functioning from the body of wisdom, which, as you say, is always there. And then you adopted the secondary mode, which is the mind, to comment and describe what's going on and using personal language, which is fine. So because the one relates to, well, impersonal language relates to impersonal effortless being, and then personal language relates to the personal mode. So it's great you made that distinction.
Yes, I was thinking about this during the last few weeks. I'm much more conscious of the different modes, if you like.
Yes.
Sometimes I thought, I've gone to make a personal comment or something, and then I thought, oh, there's no need to make a personal comment. I can just leave that alone.
Well, it's quite an interesting way of living because we become more familiar with impersonal being, which is a very kind of economical way to live energetically because we're not fueling the personal realm through identification. So we're not activating the emotions and we're not entering into things like judgment either. So it's just really simple. So energetically, it just feels much better. And then that seems to create more space. And then as it creates more space, then there's more opportunity to function from impersonal being. And then we realize we can just utilize the personal mode as and when we need to. And it isn't that we need to have any kind of aversion to the personal mode. It's kind of playing with it really. So we can really enjoy the clarity of functioning from impersonal being, and then we can fully enjoy the personal mode as well. So when you're with family and friends and you're just having a nice time, then the personal mode's great. It's it, but it's just the way the personal mode also involves the emotions which can affect our energy. So it's good to learn how to decline those, which I guess you already have, Bridie. I get that feeling.
I try to, yes, yes, yeah. And I can recognize some of my triggers,
Yes,
certain things that crop up again and again.
yes,
But it is true what you say that, the more you decline them, the less there are of them, and you
yes.
get to a stage where they don't touch you in a way.
Fantastic. Well, that's
Yeah.
a real accomplishment
Mm.
to reach that stage, and it's good that you mentioned that because it is inspiring to know. Good. So do you feel so? Well, really, just in terms, what I'd like to say is in terms of the clarity and the distinction between impersonal being and the personal mode. It's in that distinction that there is realization because what you see the simplicity of impersonal being and you see that it never goes away. There can be the personal mode overlaid on that, but actually the impersonal being is always there. And we can just rest as that any time of the day or night. And then we can activate the personal mode. The personal mode, it's a bit like having a part in a play. Somebody's giving you're in this play, and there's a character called Bridie and her family, and so you just have that little role, and you deliver the lines depending on who the character is, on the stage with you, and it can be a lot of fun. But it's actually in that distinction that we can change the nature of experience because we can withdraw the investment from the personal mode because the way we've been conditioned is to make it seem as though the personal mode is the only option. But as we discover that impersonal being is always there, then we can utilize our experience in a way which is much more, it's more conscious and it's also um, more progressive because the energy we reclaim from the personal mode gives us more power and alignment in terms of functioning from our infinite nature, and things like creativity, um, intuition, inspiration, those kind of things become more available to us and more they become more clear. So for you, there really shouldn't be any questioning about realization, because the clarity is already there in the distinction. Because if I say to you, are you Bridie existing in time and space, or are you the open, infinite field of effortless impersonal being within which all the forms arise equally and effortlessly? It's very clear to see what you truly are.
Yes, I mean, I believe that I am the infinite being,
Mhm.
but I feel that I am Bridie.
Right. Well, the um the aspect of personalization is something which you've been practicing for a while. It's like, you've had this role. It's a bit like being on Broadway for a few years, and you've been doing the same performance every night for quite a few years. So we slip into the character quite easily. But um, the the simplicity is that impersonal being is there prior to the emergence of the sense of personalization. So
Mm,
even though Bridie feels very familiar,
mm,
the sense of impersonal awareness is actually there prior to the arising of the personal mode. And what you can see is that in impersonal awareness, there's no sense of there being Bridie, when it's the simplicity um, of effortless being. It's only when the mind's engaged and we can, that we begin to feel that there's personalization. But I think the one aspect which is um, it's really the thing which makes it, it gives the impression that we are existing um, as a human being, and that's really the sense of existence, because the sense of existence that you feel in this moment,
mm,
which that sense of existence you've known all your life, when when you were very young, it was there was that very familiar sense of existence, and at every moment throughout life there has been that familiarity and that sense of existence. And because of all the programming into personalization, we're all we're all conditioned to believe that sense of existence is the existence of the individual. But actually, that sense of existence, which is really tangible and fully present in this moment, never was the existence of Bridie. All
mm,
along, that sense of existence, which is fully known, isn't concealed in any way, it's completely shining in plain view, is the existence of your infinite nature.
mm. I feel, a very strong sense of existence,
Yes.
but I feel it's inside me. It's inside this body, rather than outside and everything else being in it.
Right. Well, that's really conditioning, because we adopt certain ideas, and there are things which are presented to us. And the religions actually, most of the religions are creating a sense of duality, and it's the idea that we are a human being and that we have to overcome things like sin or guilt or whatever it is to get back to our true nature. But that's all part of the script of the dualistic realm, really, because it's the opposite way to that, which is that we remain as the infinite being all along, but we can adopt various forms of limitation to have the experience as though we're not the infinite being. But we can't ever not be the infinite being. That's all we can ever be.
Mm,
But the conditioning of feeling that you're existing inside is only something you've consented to as a result of listening to lots of people telling you that. And with religion, with Christianity, the whole idea of the soul, it's the idea that we have this soul and the soul is inside the body. So
Mm.
if people have been telling us that for a year or two, it's understandable that we take that on as a belief. But if we just look in this moment
Mm-hmm.
and you just let go of that idea and you just notice the forms arising equally and effortlessly. So if we just disregard the subject object mode and we just notice the forms appearing. So if we take, for instance, so there's awareness of the sound of these two voices.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, you can't say that the one is more you than the other because they're equally known. The sound of Bridie's voice is certainly more familiar, but the clarity of knowing the frequency of Bridie's voice or David's voice, they're equally known if you look at that directly. And the same is true of everything appearing. So what would you say is the furthest thing that you're aware of at the moment? Is there
Uh,
is there a
just
view
aware
to
of here, I suppose the sky. I've got a window at the side
yes,
here.
great.
So skies.
Yes. So we could say there is effortless impersonal awareness of the sky.
There is effortless impersonal awareness of the sky.
Yeah. And so that is fully known. There isn't anything obscuring that. And then there is effortless impersonal awareness of the wall in the room. Or
There is effortless, yeah, sorry, impersonal awareness of the walls of the room.
and so if you look directly, what you see is that the sky is fully known, and the wall is fully known, and the body sitting on the seat is fully known, and the emotions arising are fully known, and any thoughts appearing, and the sound of the two voices, everything is fully known. But all those forms are actually arising within this infinite ocean of beingness and awareness. It's a single ocean of beingness, which you've always been, and everything is arising within that. So it seems as though the sky is a long way away, but actually it's arising within the awareness you are because you're everywhere. And if there's a view through a window, if there are any trees, or if there is, there's awareness of objects in the room. And so the objects in the room, they're like waves which are just appearing and fully known. And then the awareness of the sky or the awareness of say a distant sound. So everything, including the body mind, is arising within this infinite field of silence. And that's all you ever remain as. And so those forms they're just fully known. And so there's the field of silence and then the emerging of the forms. So there could be sounds or there could be thoughts or various frequencies. There could be close forms, there could be forms in the distance. But because you're the infinite ocean of awareness and beingness, they're all arising within you, the infinite being. And one of the forms arising within that infinite field is the body mind, which is a bit of a trickster, really. It's a device which is designed to give you a virtual reality experience of individuality and localization, because it's within the sort of technology of the human body mind, there's the capability to have that experience. But it's only like a piece of technology, really. But without engaging the mind and seeing um, and kind of letting go of the idea that you're existing within the body. Um, if you're experiencing as an infinite ocean of awareness, can you see that everything is arising equally and effortlessly? So it doesn't matter. It could be an emotion, it could be a thought, it could be the sound of a car going by, it could be an object in the room, it could be the sound of people in the house, the sound of a TV, or Do you feel you can experience in that way, where it is just a single field?
No, no, I don't. No, it still feels like subject, object, what have you. Yeah.
So the subject-object mode is only a mode, and
Mm,
there has to be full knowing of one's infinite nature for the subject-object mode to appear. Because really, if you look directly, what that you could say there is effortless impersonal awareness of the sky. So it isn't Bridie. Bridie isn't aware of the sky. What's aware of the sky is effortless impersonal awareness. And effortless impersonal awareness isn't localized. It's actually an infinite field within which all the forms appear. And it has to be everywhere for all those forms to be known. So it's just that the subject object mode appears to be more familiar because that's been installed and reinforced. Really, everyone we meet is reinforcing it.
mm, yeah, I mean, I sort of know there is no Bridie, that it's just, there's nothing there, is there? Because if you try and track it back, this
Mm.
this label doesn't actually lead anywhere, does it?
No.
Just a lot of ideas
Mm.
and things like that.
Mm.
Yeah, I sort of.
How do you find it is with the eyes closed? Because um, the eyes, because the sense of sight is the leading sense. So with the eyes open, it tends to activate the other senses and it tends to activate the subject-object mode too.
Mm,
But with the eyes closed, it's easier to experience as a field of awareness because there is just awareness. It's probably quiet where you are, so there may not be
mm.
too many sounds. But are there any sounds arising at the moment?
There's the sound of the ticking clock.
Okay. So so can you so accepting that impersonal awareness is a field of awareness with the ticking clock, can you sense that it is that frequency is actually arising within a field of awareness?
Yes, I sort of see that it's coming out of. It's just appearing, as you say. It's just arising.
Yes.
Yeah, literally just coming into awareness. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a little wave of sound appearing in this field of
Mm,
awareness. And Bridie isn't over where the clock is. So it can't, so it's just a form appearing within this field. Are there any others? The sound of the two voices.
yes, sound of the two voices. I have tinnitus in one ear, so I am aware of that
Okay.
as well.
Yeah. So from silence and the simplicity of awareness, it's just seeing that these forms, they're emerging and they're known by infinite effortless awareness, and they just rise and fall. So they appear, and then they fall back into silence. So the ticking of the clock,
Mm-hmm.
there is there's the sequence of the sounds equally spaced, but they're like little regular waves. So the simplest form of awareness is really effortless impersonal awareness because there's really no relationship. It's unity because you're the infinite field and the forms are appearing as waves within that field or within that ocean of awareness.
And I'm just aware of the ticking clock.
Mm. It's quite the sound of the ticking clock is quite a good one because it has that rhythm
Mm.
and the regularity. So it's quite easy just to sense it appearing within a field. And if you can you experience the body mind as appearing within that field also? There is a sense of localization, which is part of the technology of the body mind, really, because the body mind is a device which is it's designed to convince us of individuality and separation and localization. And you know, pieces of technology like the aging process is something which is designed to reinforce the idea and make us believe that we're existing in time, time's going by, and that's the reason the body's getting older. But it's actually opposite to that. It's the aging process is a device which is designed to make us believe in time. And the body mind is it's a device where one of the primary purposes to give us the challenge of making it appear as though we're appearing as a separate entity. And the sense of localization is something which is is designed to create that sense of separation as well. But just seeing the forms arising. So we could say there's effortless impersonal awareness of the body sitting on the seat, effortless impersonal awareness of the ticking of the clock, effortless impersonal awareness of any thoughts or emotions. And they're all arising equally and effortlessly within this field. If all the teachers and people you met from birth until now has been telling you, well, actually, you're an infinite field of awareness within which all forms arise equally and effortlessly, including the body mind. If somebody came and then said to you, well, no, actually, you're Bridie existing in this body in time and space, you'd say, oh, that's nonsense.
Mm.
It's just the reinforcement of the conditioning, really. It
Yeah.
isn't necessary to believe anything. It's only necessary to experience it directly because what's noticeable really with effortless being is that there's no energetic investment required.
Mm.
This being is completely effortless. It takes no effort to be, but it takes effort to be Bridie because it requires thought, it requires um, maybe sensory experience, emotions, and activity on a physical level.
Mm.
But the interesting thing, the way you had the experience while watching the conversation with Nina is quite a
Mm.
good example of the way the dualistic realm works, because what it wants to do is it wants to give it knew how close you were to realization. So what it does is it lets you have this little slither of a glimpse,
mm,
actually, of an experience, because um, that experience is something which um, it was, in a way, it was a heightened experience because there was a sense that there was a level of communication between
mm,
you and I,
mm,
but it was actually the self, this, it was the self revealing itself to itself, or the self
mm,
speaking to itself. And that was the experience. And but then it's kind of that just disappeared. So that gives the mind the idea then, oh, then I had something and it's gone.
mm,
But all experiences come and go. And because that was an experience, it came and went. But your true nature isn't an experience. It's the Your true nature is the infinite field within which all forms appear. So so it's more simple than the mind would reveal to us.
mm,
So the simplicity of the knowing of the forms arising. So as the conversation started and you were just describing the forms arising equally and effortlessly and using impersonal language, that was actually functioning from impersonal being.
mm,
It's just that because it appears to be the same as functioning as Bridie, it's because there is only the one being, but we've been conditioned into a case of mistaken identity because all along we've remained in our infinite nature, but all the conditioning in this world is designed to make us believe that we're existing as a person.
mm,
So it's the distinction is imperceptible. Some people, some people have, it appears as though they have a shift into realization, but that's usually when there's intense suffering. So if there's intense suffering or lots of mind activity, then it can appear as though we're shifting into realization because there's silence, there's peace, there's ease. But because you're familiar with that already, then there isn't going to be a sense of a shift in that way because there is no contrast
mm,
because you're already familiar. And that's really the device I use, which is, lots of people are expecting there to be a shift in consciousness, but the starting point is effortless being. So when we're just noticing the forms arising equally and effortlessly, it actually catches the mind off guard because
mm,
the mind's thinking there's going to be a shift in consciousness or an experience. But what's actually happening is when you're describing the forms arising equally and effortlessly, what you're demonstrating is that you are already functioning as the infinite impersonal being.
mm,
And then the secondary option of engaging the mind is something which you can do because you're familiar with that. But because it's possible to see that you're functioning from impersonal being and then the mind seen to be secondary, then that is a very simple way of allowing people to see that everyone actually is already only ever the infinite being. That's what everyone is.
mm,
Even, murderers and whoever else, everyone is only the infinite being. It's just that there's the personal mode, and the personal mode is like characterization, and it involves delivering a few lines and using words like I, me, or mine.
mm. But as we sit here now, we are communicating in the impersonal mode, aren't we?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It is. It's the simplicity of, there's just this restful alertness to the forms appearing. So as Bridie speaks, there's effortless
Mm,
awareness of the sound of the words. There's just sufficient focus to perceive the meaning of the words.
mm,
and the ability, as we need to step to a degree into the personal mode, just to respond to each other. But you're absolutely right. It's the self speaking to itself.
Mm.
We could go into the personal mode. We were in the personal mode a bit to begin with when you were saying,
Mm.
I came over to Bridgenorth and,
Yeah.
and I stayed 4 miles outside Bridgenorth, and I was saying about Bury St Edmunds and how, we used to visit the area when we were children. We can have
Yes.
those personally. I could ask you what you're doing at the weekend.
Mm.
You know, that's the personal mode. But actually all along it is actually impersonal being.
Yeah, I can see that distinction. What I thought I would be able to do is sort of put the mind on one side, if you know what I mean, or
Yes.
turn off the mind or whatever. But you know,
Well, I feel you are doing that. And it's a gradual process because all the conditioning which created the activation of the mind and the personalization is something which was running much more. But as you described earlier in the conversation, as you become more aware of the invitations into personalization, you realize you can decline them. You don't need to act upon them. You can just watch them floating by. And then as a result of that, they decline because the only reason they keep showing up is because we take delivery of them and we
mm,
activate them with our own energy field. But if we're not picking them up, then they just float on by and then they stop being delivered because it's like a salesman showing up at your door. If you buy something from him every time he shows up, he's going to keep knocking your door.
mm.
But when you stop buying things from him, he won't be coming back for much longer.
Yeah, I can see that about the invitations. The kind of invitation to anger or resentment or jealousy or whatever.
Hmm.
But it's the mind that keeps on chattering all the time, describing, going over stuff, not necessarily negative stuff, but just
Yes,
going on and on and on. And you just think, wouldn't it be lovely if you didn't have that going all the time?
yes. Well, I think it's subsiding collectively, but it will also reduce. And just becoming familiar with functioning from impersonal being is one way to do that, because really the the transformation that takes place is from the conditioned mode. So the kind of deeply conditioned human mode it's divided mainly between the waking state and the sleeping state. So the conditioning we have is that we have 8 hours of work, 8 hours of leisure, and then 8 hours of sleep. And so the work is, requiring focus, and then leisure, we're entertaining thoughts and experiences we prefer. And then sleep is more of a recovery time. But what you'll find is that the structure of the 24-hour day will change because the more you withdraw the investment from the personal realm and the less you're entertaining the invitations, then there's more space. And that space is created, and you're resting more as impersonal being. And then also you realize, well, actually, as you just described, I mean, it's fantastic that you made the comment a few moments ago where you said, well, actually, it's the infinite being having a conversation with itself. It isn't the subject object mode isn't engaged. And actually you realize that option becomes available in most conversations because with certainly with people you love, with people you're close to, you can just be quite relaxed. You can have a leisurely conversation. Your general demeanor is pretty relaxed anyway. So functioning from impersonal being is something which comes quite easily to you. But what you find is that the more you withdraw energy and attention from the personal mode, then the more you'll be resting as effortless being. That creates more space. The mind naturally becomes quieter. The
Mm.
emotions subside as well, and then we're more selective in terms of the physical realm, and selective in how we spend our time, because um, we tend to be selective in terms of who we spend time with. So we all have family members who like some attention, and we give them some attention. Um, but what you'll find is that the appeal of resting as impersonal, effortless being is something which actually grows. And so the percentage of time resting as effortless being during the day will increase. And it actually increases day and night, because it tends to be that where there's more resting as effortless being during the day and not engaging the subject-object mode, then we need less rest at night. So quite often there can be times during the night where we're just resting as effortless being, and then gradually we're able to experience bliss, because from effortless being we can go more into a sense of appreciation, gratitude, euphoria,
Mm.
and then inspiration, and then creative ideas can emerge, and there's just a sense of fullness and richness in our experience, and there isn't a desperation to get back to sleep, because we can enjoy the whole 24-hour day.
Mm.
So the structure of the day tends to be different. So it can, well, effortless being can predominate for maybe 60, 70% of the time.
Mm.
And then the personal mode can be activated. So there can be more bliss and euphoria. So initially that can just be peace and neutrality, but then it can develop into euphoria and bliss. Um, the general functioning from effortless being can be sort of 60, 70%. And then the mental, emotional, and physical realms can be utilized in a more selective way. So we only use the mind when we need to. It'll gradually, if there are thoughts which are just running, it's just a habit really, which will naturally decline,
Mm.
because the more there is resting as effortless being, the mind actually wants a rest as well.
Mm.
So the mind will naturally settle. And then when the mind settles, the emotions settle. And then when the emotions settle, then the physical realm becomes more balanced. So you find that the structure of the day is quite different. So effortless being is predominating, and then the mental, emotional, and physical realms, depending on what you're doing. Obviously, if you enjoy walking and climbing mountains or something, it's slightly different. But the option is there to regulate the degree of investment in the personal realm. And
Mm.
the the effect of that is that there is natural alignment with your infinite nature. So the quality of intelligence which is coming through, it's coming through from your infinite nature. So it has a much higher um, capacity for things like creativity um, and inspiration, those kind of things.
Mm. Yeah.
But it's the main the way to approach it really, Bridie, is to see it as an adventure, and knowing that
Mm.
you're completely on track,
Mhm.
and not what the mind tends to do. It tries to deliver invitations to make it seem as though the mind is an obstacle, or it's something which you need to turn off, and it'd be much nicer if it was turned off. What actually happens is you'll begin to disregard it, And you'll see that actually there's a process of integration taking place where naturally there's more and more alignment with effortless being, more of a sense of experiencing as an infinite ocean or field of awareness rather than the localized um, version be, predominating. And you'll just see that it's progressive, and you'll think, well, this is amazing because, well, even if you look over the past few weeks and months,
Mm.
see that that's really what's been taking place.
Mm.
The personal mode has been subsiding.
Mm.
The clarity in terms of alignment with your infinite nature is constantly increasing, but with no upper limit in reality. So it's a great place to be.
Yes, yeah, I definitely felt that I am withdrawing a little bit from just a tiny bit from the personal realm. It's more at a distance than it was, sort of six
Yes,
months ago, or
yes,
what have you. Just
yes.
doesn't feel as important somehow.
Good. That's great.
So it sounds like I'm on the right lines, and just to keep going, refusing those invitations, and just resting as effortless being.
Yes. And
As much.
just being alert to things which come to you. But the whole process is actually being administered from your infinite nature because
Mm.
as you withdraw attention from the dualistic realm, so the dualistic realm is a distraction, really. So the mind, emotions, and physical realm to some degree, they're distractions from our infinite nature.
Mm.
And but the more you rest as effortless being, then the more alignment there is with your infinite nature, and the more effectively um, the process of integration of infinite, effortless, impersonal being into the personal mode, that can happen much more smoothly and more rapidly the more we align with impersonal being.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Yeah.
But in the meantime, you just enjoy the personal realm and even the mind.
Mm.
It's just like having a little, the mind is just like having a little radio show on that you're familiar with. Uh,
Mm.
it's like having the Archers on. You've been listening to it for a while and you're familiar with the themes and the characters.
Or in the background. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So you don't need to have a battle to turn it off. You just allow it to just naturally subside. And then the interest in it subsides as well.
Yeah.
And and then it becomes very interesting because your infinite nature begins to guide you in different ways, and then more potential appears in terms of your life experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can think of many instances in my life when, infinite being has guided me and
Yes,
the family plenty of
yes,
times. Things
yes,
have come together.
yes,
You know, so yeah, it is just trusting that more and just relaxing.
definitely. Well, I'm sure you've seen the way you describe it there, that most of the key events in our lives, they're actually being guided by
Mm.
infinite being, and so the fear that people apply to different kinds of events and transformation um, is quite often unjustified, but also it tends to it tends to disrupt the smoothness of the flow of things when we're just aligned and we're seeing things as being guided and not going wrong, but having a sense of openness and alertness to see what it's demonstrating and where we're being guided, then it's much smoother. And
Mm.
it's very similar to the distinction between effortless being and the mind, because the more we the more we align with effortless being, the more faith we have that it's guiding us and the intelligence is guiding us. And as you say, you've already witnessed that in your life experience with events, with your family.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that makes it much easier. And so that in itself begins to turn the mind off, because when we know that things are being guided, we don't need to keep the mind active, because it's the mind's trying to justify its existence by pretending that it's running the show, when
Mm,
really it isn't. And when we see clearly that it isn't, we don't really need to give it too much attention.
mm.
We just use it as and when we need it. You know, if you're going to bake an apple pie, then it's very useful.
Yes, or you're going to organize a holiday or whatever. You've got to
Yes, yes,
plan, haven't you? And
yes,
there are things that need to be done in time, don't they?
yes,
And booked and planned.
yes,
Um,
yeah.
but those those aren't the really personal things, are they?
No,
They're the more functional things in life.
yes.
Uh,
Well, it's really the three options available with the mind are alignment with effortless being, so that intuition can guide us, and so that there is this element of our infinite nature taking care of things. And then the second aspect is the practical use of the mind, which you just described, for booking a holiday and planning things and organizing. And the combination of effortless being and the mind is a wonderful combination, really.
mm,
It's the third aspect of the mind, which is the one to allow to dissolve, which is the one where it's trying to take center stage and pretending it's running the show and inviting us into experiences we don't wish to have, because it's like an energy game. It's a challenge in the way it's inviting us into personalization and trying to get us to invest our energy.
yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So you're really clear. So there's no doubt about realization now, is there, Bridie?
Apparently not. No.
Well, you can see that distinction, can't you? The
I can.
distinction between effortless being and the forms arising equally and effortlessly, which is already here. It's just that all your life you've been told that that is the existence of Bridie,
Mm,
but actually, it's been effortless being all along, really.
yes.
And then you can sometimes have a kind of sharper experience, like the one you described when you're
Mm,
listening to the recording with Nina, and there can then be a sort of deeper sense of unity,
mm,
because the really it's where unity becomes present in even when there's a sense of duality. So there was a sense of initially Bridie listening to a conversation.
mm,
Then there was a noticing, well, actually, that they were the disguised aspect, when
mm,
really what you saw is it's like watching a it's like watching a play. You go to Stratford-on-Avon and you're watching Shakespeare, and they're delivering the lines in such a clear way, in a convincing way, that it appears as though it really is Hamlet.
mm,
Then you notice the guy to two places or something, and then that puts you back into seeing that it's actually just a couple of actors.
yes.
So it's good to make that distinction, because those those cognitions and the clarity can become more available, and they'll appear more frequently when you just know that effortless being is always here.
Mm,
Because effortless being is always here. What's optional is, do you engage the personal mode?
yes. I get it. Yeah.
And it's from moment to moment. And as you noticed during this conversation, it's impersonal being speaking with impersonal being. And then if we wish to, we
Mm,
can revert to the personal mode.
yeah.
But all along, the simplicity of effortless impersonal being is functioning, fully alert, fully available, and the only thing there ever is, really.
Yes, that neutral state, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great the way you're just so clear and so understated.
You don't know what you know, do you, sometimes? And that's what you're saying, really, isn't it?
Exactly, that
Oh,
you've integrated the ability to function from impersonal being, but because you're spending time with your family and they say, oh, this is mum or this is Bridie, and you're having conversations and it's the normal day-to-day experience in one way, or just continuing as always, the integration of the ability to function from impersonal being and realize your true nature, because it's so simple and subtle, you've hardly noticed it.
mm, yeah, right. That's the affirmation that probably I needed to just relax and carry on, really.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And
Thank you.
also to be able to be available if other people step into your space,
Yes.
because you know exactly what your true nature is, and if other people wish to know, uh,
Mm,
what tends to happen is, once the clarity is there, the infinite being, one's infinite nature, is monitoring everything, and it'll know when you're ready to send people your way.
yes. No, that would be, or will be great, because that's just it's just such an amazing thing to share with other people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's that freedom.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, I know. I was going to say I know a few people who would benefit, but it's not for me to decide. It's not for Bridie to decide. Only when they initiated.
Yeah, that's the way. We usually we all have a little go at trying to convince somebody, but then it just falls flat.
Yes, yeah.
But when
No,
they're
in the
truly
past.
ready,
I was going to say in the past, I've given books away to people that I've thought amazing, and
yes.
as you say, no response. So
No,
it just doesn't work that way, does it?
no, it doesn't. You go to visit them and you see the books in the pile with the firewood and newspapers.
Yes. Uh, so no, thank you, David.